So today we continue our journey of embracing self-care with the message, as Jan has beautifully laid the foundation for us, balancing grief and joy. So you all know by now that I love words and I love looking up the definitions, but I'm just going to point out the origins. And for me, the origins of words are the vibration that they carry. So grief, the origins of grief is to burden and heavy. So I think we can all relate to that when we're going through grief, there is a heaviness that may be present for us. And the origins of the word joy is to be glad. So let me just ask, because we're talking about balancing, right? So how do you balance the feelings of heaviness with gladness? Has anyone discovered how to do that? To balance the feeling of heaviness with gladness, or balance the feeling of grief with joy? And if you have some tips, please put them in the comments here on Zoom, or if you're with us on Facebook. So let's just remember that we're looking through grief and joy and the balancing of it through the lens of embracing self-care. And when we talk about self-care from this perspective, we're talking about our practices to comfort and soothe ourselves. So one of the things that I do to soothe myself is I have a good cry. I have a good cry. I just let it all go. And that is very soothing for me. And yesterday I was reading the Science of Mind magazine, and yesterday's daily guide was called Shed Your Tears. And one of the things Reverend Christy Hardwick, she's doing the monthly guides for June, she wrote this: "The few times I really let the tears fall, I found incredible peace afterwards. In a way, my tears cleared the illusion of anything I created in my mind that seemed to not be God, to be love." So shedding tears is a powerful way that we can soothe ourselves. And Jan is sharing, remembering what the person we lost gave us, meant to us, and that never leaves. Rhonda shared, trying to get back up in the comments. Okay. Rhonda shared, I use music, allowing the music, the song, to bring up the memories and connect with what was lost, and sing along until the tears flow. Yeah, music soothes me also, Rhonda. And Janet is sharing, shifting the focus from my feelings to the feelings of the object of my grief. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for sharing that. So yesterday, I attended the graduation at One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. And as many of you know, this was the seminary that I graduated from in 2018, and many of you were there. And yesterday, one of the presenters was speaking about seeing spirit in everything and the beauty of lessons. She said that when things seem to go wrong or are hard, or we mess up, that we enter into a space of sacred spaciousness, a space within ourselves that is spacious. And that made me think about grief. That grief can be a space of sacred spaciousness for us to feel the depth of the loss. Is it possible, I started to think, is it possible for grief to be a doorway to that sacred spaciousness? A spaciousness to just be with what we are feeling, not to try to change it, not to try to make it better, not to lessen it, just to let it be, not to resolve it, not even to get through it, Many people say when we're grieving, oh, you'll get through it, right? But sometimes we don't need to get through it so quickly, and just allow ourselves to be in it, right? To just come home to who we truly are in those moments of grief. Because grief has a way of putting a spotlight on life. Isn't that interesting? When we lose something or when someone passes away, we have a tendency at some point to think more about life and living. We often think about grief in the context of mourning a loved one. And many people are mourning a life that they haven't lived. I just want to say that again. Many people are mourning a life that they haven't lived, a life that they have buried under doubt and worry and fear and tomorrows and shame and so many other things that buries our joy. So I don't think it was a coincidence that the graduation at One Spirit was yesterday and today's topic is balancing grief and joy, because it was through the doorway of grief that I crossed the threshold and did something that I had been waiting and wanting to do for years. I had buried a desire that I have. And if I was really in tune with it, it was causing me some grief. It was causing me some grief when we don't do the things that we know we are meant to do. We can be in a place of grief. So I'm going to take us back, and I'm just going to ask those of you who were here back in the 2013, 14, 15, 16s to recall a beloved spirit that was in our midst, our Donna Holmes. And so Donna Holmes was a member of Rockland CSL, and she died suddenly in September of 2016. And I know everyone can agree with me that she was an amazing human being. She was love itself, and she was fun and funny and smart and just a joy to be around. And so her death rocked many of us at Rockland, and we grieved her passing, and we feel still, I believe, the absence of her presence even today. But it was through that grief that I took the action that I had been delaying years and applied to One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. There was a heaviness that many of us felt from her passing. And for me, what it brought up was how I was living life. And I just kept thinking, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Because guess what? If we know nothing else, we know that tomorrow is not promised. So let's stop waiting, right? So the following Monday, I decided that I was going to submit my application to One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. And I knew that the deadline had probably passed because it was mid-September and classes had probably already begun. And I remember feeling really sad. And I was at work, and at the end of the workday, before I left, my mind kept telling me, check your email, check your email. Now, Donna had just passed that Saturday, and we were all still feeling it in a very heavy way. And because my mind kept telling me to check my email, I said, okay, I'm going to check my email before I leave. And the first email was from One Spirit. And the subject line said, it's not too late to enroll. And my heart literally started pumping faster. And I had this feeling of amazement and excitement. And so I stayed in the office and I submitted my application that very night. So Ernest Holmes says this: a good psychological balance is struck when the will and the emotions are rightly poised. That is when the intellect first decides what the emotions are to respond to. So there was a seed of joy planted in the soil of grief, and my tears watered it. My will and my emotions were rightly prepared. My mind that is the one mind, decided my emotions respond to the decisions of my intellect, right? So when we are in the midst of grief, there may be something that is calling forth for us to take action in. Not to ignore the feelings, but there may be something that is being called forth for us to bring into the life, into the living. So you all know by now I graduated in 2018 and the rest is history. Here I am, right? Becoming a minister of joy is what I say I am. I am a minister of joy. And so joy and grief carry their own weight. Sometimes one can feel lighter than the other, and sometimes one can be heavier than the other. Balancing it is not the goal in the sense of trying to make it equal. As a matter of fact, I'm not really a fan of balance. I'm more of a fan of harmony, but that's another sermon. Balancing of grief and joy is not something that we have to do. We don't have to do it. We don't have to balance it out, because there is a law in our teaching, and the law is the law of perfect balance. Ernest Holmes writes this in the Science of Mind text. The law of mind, which is the medium of all action, is a law of perfect balance. The objective law perfectly balances the images within the subjective world. The law is always in perfect balance. We don't have to bring it into balance. We don't have to balance the law. That's not our job, right? But one of the things that the law of perfect balance allows us to do is, and any law, we know there's one law, right? The law allows us to pour our grief or whatever it is that we may need into it. To pour your grief into the law, to pour your grief into the love. It is an infinite container that will hold it all the grief, all the pain, all the shame, all the loss. And through the power of the law of perfect balance, the power will transmute and transform it. Ernest Holmes loves to say that there is a power for good in the universe. Does he stop there? No. He goes on to say, and you can use it. So there is a power embedded in grief. There is a power that is calling us forth.
Say it louder.
Kristen, you're unmuted, love. There is a power that grief invites us to get in touch with. There is a power in grief that is calling us forth to live. To live. Ernest writes in the Science of Mind, the power of love, the power for good, the power of joy is a power that balances the earth on its axis. The same power that molds the planets and all that is called upon them. So yesterday when I was driving home from the graduation, I got on YouTube and I was listening to one of Ernest Holmes' talks. And the first thing he said in his talk, as he does with many of his talks, is there is a power for good in the universe, greater than we are. He said, a power for good that we can use in everyday life for everything. Everything. That includes when we have lost someone something, when we are in mourning for something or someone, that we can use it for everything. He said, one of the greatest teachers that ever lived said, "It is done unto you as you believe." What do you suppose he was talking about? This mastermind was talking about a spiritual power in the universe, something so close to us that it is indeed nearer than our hands and feet, closer to us than our very neck vein. This is not something that we have to go and search after. It is something that is right here, close, nearer than our very breath. How then would we use a power that is so intimate? Certainly, we should use it in an intimate way. And grief is an intimate thing that we get to use. It's an intimate feeling. It is expressed in a unique way by everyone. He says that the power that exists is for us, not against us. It is willing and not reluctant. We could use this power for good greater than we are, the power that responds to us according to our conviction in it. And then he goes on to say, because many think Ernest Holmes was, all about the intellect, all about the mind, right? But he was also about the heart and the feeling. It's really the science of mind and spirit, the mind and heart. So he says we can feel it. We can feel the power of God responding to us. And he called it wonderful. The power is within you. When it feels like your life is out of balance, when it feels like your burdens are so heavy that all you can do is cry, guess what? Cry. And then turn within and find God. You don't have to look far, for there is an indwelling spirit. There is a power greater than we are, and we get to use it in every circumstance, in everything, even in those moments of grief. My grandmother used to sing a song that called this power wonderful, wonderful, Prince of Peace, Counselor, Redeemer, Mighty God. I think Rhonda knows the song, right? It's a very Christian song. It was one of my favorite songs growing up as a child, but it was because it brought my grandmother such joy, right? And when she was feeling down, and my grandmother wasn't one to show her feelings, but if she was feeling sad, she would sing that song, or she would hum the melody. Wonderful, wonderful, Prince of Peace, Counselor, Redeemer, Mighty God. And in the science of mind teachings, we will call that power what? Infinite intelligence, creative mind, universal spirit, source, supply, substance, absolute, Father, Mother, God. It doesn't matter what we call the power. What matters is that we call upon it and we use it. I just felt like this energy of my grandmother. We just call and it will answer. We have the faith of God, and faith will not be denied. Faith will not take no for an answer, because faith speaks an affirmative language. Faith says yes. The gift of grief births us to live life fully alive. To live life in joy is what I say. So what is grief calling forth within you to bring to life? What is grief calling forth in you to bring to life? And will you answer the call? And so it is. And so I want to offer as a spiritual mind treatment a song, lyrics to a song by Tina Turner. I'm still grooving on Tina Turner, y'all. And to honor Black Music Month. And the song is called Something Beautiful Remains. I never heard this song before by Tina Turner. Have you heard it before, Rhonda? Yeah, it wasn't one of her popular ones. But let's just go within and listen to the words, but listen to the vibration of the words. And we could take this in as a prayer, a meditation, as a soothing sob, if there's something present for you now. If you are grieving a loss, if you are mourning for something in your life or someone in your life, I hope that these words provide you with some joy. Something beautiful remains. Tears will leave no stain. Time will ease the pain. Every light that fades, something beautiful remains. We're living in a world of stars and dust. Between heaven and all that surrounds us, we're traveling here, spirits passing through. And the love we give is all that will endure. Hey now, what we had is gone, but I still remember you. Just like a rose after the rain, something beautiful remains. Tears will leave no stain. Time will ease the pain. For every light that shades, for every light that fades, something beautiful remains. Now the darkness falls, the sun goes down. One by one, the stars are coming out. Tides come in, washes footprints from the sand. As one day ends, a new day must begin. Hey now, though we are apart, you're here forever in my dreams. Hey now, love is lost and gained. What you gonna do about it? What you gonna say? Something beautiful remains. Tears will leave no stain. Time will ease the pain. For every light that fades, something beautiful remains. And you wonder sometimes how you carry on when you lost the love you knew. But it's all right to know your own heart be true. Tears will leave no stain. Time will ease the pain. For every light that fades, something beautiful remains. Tears will leave no stain. Time will ease the pain. For every light that fades, something beautiful remains.